Hello YouTube, Rich from PCGamesN here, and for me, a 4X is all about conceiving and executing the plan. The course I'll chart through the labyrinth of systems, information and competitors before landing upon the sandy shores of victory. When I pick my faction, I'm effectively saying I'd like to try and achieve this victory type in this way. And Civilization has always been very good at that bit, but I think has struggled in the past with challenging you during the execution. It often feels like the most interesting choice you make is the one you make before the game even starts. And in Gathering Storm, this trend reaches its highest expression. The new civs are more intricate and distinctive than ever, and have kept me one more turning as I see the plan through to completion. But the new systems don't factor into the plan all that much. Natural disasters are mainly annoying. You can ignore them at first as they'll miss your civilization and instead flood vast stretches of empty land or a herd of unfortunate sheep. But as you expand, they'll hit you more often, and they can kill your citizens and damage your infrastructure, forcing you to put the plan on hold while you repair districts or make builders to fix improvements. And they have an annoying habit of recurring in the same place. Gathering Storm's lightning does strike twice. You can mitigate some disasters by building dams and flood barriers, although flood barriers come very late in the game, but you'll never be able to do anything about droughts or storms. It's not much fun. You can turn disasters down when setting up a game, but opting out of a new feature isn't the most satisfying solution. Things do get more interesting when you get the chance to make them worse. Your carbon emissions will exacerbate many disasters and create new ones, such as sea level rise. This raises the question of how much to adopt fossil fuels come industrialization, and believe me, once you suffer a crippling blizzard that kills nearly 20 of your citizens and wrecks or even removes dozens of improvements, you'll take that question far more seriously than in your first game. That kind of destruction can doom a playthrough, and sometimes it won't even be your fault. It's possible to play as a conservationist and still get battered by apocalyptic hurricanes or swallowed by the sea because someone else is burning coal, like Sigmar burns heretics. You have options, but none are ideal. You can kick off, just like you would if you had to stop an AI winning one of the peaceful victories. But once you've captured their polluting power plants, you can't decommission them as far as I can see. The best you can do is convert them to low-carbon nuclear power, and that's only possible if you have the technology. Alternatively, you could try to pass an environmental treaty in the returning World Congress, but only when it randomly pops up on the agenda. When the Congress meets, you can vote on 2 proposals that'll change the game rules until the next session. Each has a positive and a negative outcome. For example, a player could either get another trade route, or could suffer a total trade embargo. You can also specify the target, of course. But unlike in Civ 5, there's no way to become host of the Congress or to otherwise set its agenda. So you have more control over the outcome of the proposals that come before it, but none at all really over which proposals those will be. It's great when it works. As Eleanor of Aquitaine, for instance, I cashed a lot of diplomatic favour to ensure that my belligerent neighbour, Suleiman of the Ottomans, would get faster city growth rates, but less city loyalty. Together with my ability as Eleanor, which drops foreign cities' loyalty further with each great work I store in a city, this led directly to a couple of his cities rebelling and joining me. I felt delightfully devilish, a feeling only slightly undermined by the fact that the AI didn't realise the implications and in fact, Suleiman voted for the proposal himself. I wish I could say I'd engineered it by becoming host of the Congress and dropping the proposal at the same time as moving my great works around and hitting a golden age, you know, as part of a plan. But right now, the Congress doesn't feel like something you can use in that way. It only presents opportunities that you can occasionally seize ad hoc. And that's kinda true of the new diplomatic victory. You need 10 victory points to claim it, with regular motions in the Congress awarding 2. I was on the cusp of victory on 2 occasions, but was frustrated by the rest of the world pooling their favour to stop me. Any favour that you spend on losing votes is refunded, so as long as you're generating more than everyone else, you should be able to overwhelm them, in theory. The trouble is, the more votes you add to a motion, the more favour they cost. So you can have more favour than the rest of the world combined, but that doesn't mean you'll have more votes. In the end, I won the diplomatic victory on my 3rd chance, but was helped massively by 2 very tempting proposals appearing on the same agenda and splitting my opponent's votes. Again, that's a factor that's beyond my control. The only occasion on which you can affect the Congress's agenda is if you use it to call an emergency, because the emergency system has been folded into the Congress and it's a sensible place for it, but it's developed some frustrating quirks. In another game as Coupe, I needed Suleiman's land, and I intended to play peacefully after I got it. Honest. But the rest of the world made that difficult by passing military emergencies against me twice, one of which punished a conquest I'd made before the Congress had even convened for the first time. In another game, Matthias tried to emergency me for taking Calais, dozens of turns after I'd done so, had taken France out of the game entirely, and had moved on to Greece. So, and this is an odd thought, but if you're a warmonger, you have my sympathy. Gathering Storm might be a rough time for you. You kinda need to amass as much diplomatic favour as possible to vote these emergencies down. And sometimes you'll manage it, but sometimes it'll be impossible, as you'll find half the world will dump all their favour on ganging up on you. I think the size of your army is an important deterrent here. On the flip side though, defensive wars do feel much fairer. Diplomatic misbehaviour generates grievances, which are balanced between civs, and thus give you credit to draw on if someone else catapulted the first boulder, so to speak. After Matthias backstabbed me in my first Inca game, seriously, Suleiman and Matthias are right up there with Alexander for the civ's biggest dickhead award, I was able to capture and keep one of his cities with my reputation intact. He still tried to declare an emergency on me, again ages later, but this time the rest of the world was able to recognise that I'd done nothing wrong. And yet I doubt Gathering Storm will do much to address one of the civ community's perennial complaints. The AI still gives dumb attack orders when fighting, and still attaches dumb value to commodities in diplomacy. This has produced some frankly ridiculous trade requests, and enabled me to get away with some ridiculous counter-proposals. One time I talked someone down from 20 oil to 12 iron, as if strategic resources were all equal. But this new, more granular approach to strategic resources is an excellent background change, and it actually poses some of the most interesting questions in the game, like, do you want to power your cities or maintain a modern military, or do you try to do both through expansion or diplomacy, or can you afford to wait while you tech up to renewable power? It's basic strategy stuff, but it's compelling, and I think it's actually lost to some extent in the big headline features. The new civs, though, are brilliant. For some, Firaxis has taken the rare step of mixing weaknesses in among strengths. For instance, Mali's mines yield more gold but less production than anyone else's, while their Seguba discounts purchase prices, so when you play them, you'll buy stuff rather than make it. The Maori can't generate great writers, and they lose early great work slots from the amphitheatre, but they get more culture, faith and tourism from unimproved land. So somehow, Firaxis has made conservationists work in a genre that's part named for exploitation. Dido partly resurrects the old favourite strategy of forward settling, while Matthias turns an overlooked, underused mechanic, levying city-state troops, into a deadly weapon. Aesthetic design is also outstanding. Reject a diplomatic proposal from Christina, and she'll give you an unblinking hard stare while huffily flipping a page of her book. I include the Maori in nearly every game I play to enjoy one of their songs, a gentle tribal hymn as soothing as a zephyr blowing in from the sea. So I've enjoyed my time with Gathering Storm, and am still enjoying it even after cramming more than 40 hours into the last week and a half. And it's mainly because I want to keep exploring the new civs, although the background changes around diplomatic favour, grievances and strategic resources are also very sensible, and they do materially improve the game. But I can't say quite the same about the big headline changes. Obviously it's nice to see the World Congress come back. It is a classic civ feature, and it does make Civ 6 feel more complete. But much like natural disasters, it's hard to factor into the plan in its current form, and so it doesn't add quite as much to the game as I feel like it could, or perhaps should. And there we are, there's our Civ 6 Gathering Storm review. We hope you found that helpful. Leave us a like if you did. Give us a comment below with your thoughts. Are you going to pick up Gathering Storm, or are you going to hold off? Personally, I think it would really benefit from a patch that tweaked a few things and maybe added the ability to host the World Congress back into the game. Subscribe to PCGamesN, of course, for plenty more PC gaming content. We hope to see you again, but until we do, thanks very much for watching, and take care.